Welcome to Piggy's Podcast, Week 5. Your boy finally got a win. Took 5 weeks. I finally got a win. Good weekend, all in all. Much more good than bad. I had a Patriots win. Good. I won. Good. Long weekend. That's always good. Had a boozy brunch yesterday. Also very good. Kept boozing. Very good. But then I had to go to work. Not good. Missed the Red Sox game. That was good because they puked all over their shoes. Bad. Season's over. Bad. Poppy's gone. Bad. But I finally got a win. So everything's good in my world. I'm forgetting about the Red Sox until next season, focusing solely on football and my fantasy team and the Patriots winning their Super Bowl. So, without further ado, let's get into the scores. Ben beat Davis 104.5 to 78.5. Ben scored all of his points on Thursday Night Football pretty much, with 49.5 points combined between David Johnson and Carlos Hyde. His defense also put up 17 points, so that was mainly where all of his points came from. Everybody else on his team kind of just mediocre to not very good. Davis has no excuse this week because the Packers weren't on a bye week. So Aaron Rodgers was back. Eddie Lacy was back. Not very good. They won, I guess, so Davis can take some solace in that. But their offense has not been very good this year, and Davis is really relying on them as per usual. Although he did leave James Starks on his bench this week, so good for Davis, I guess. He didn't play all of the Packers that he could possibly play. So for that, Ben is now 3-2. Davis is 2-3. Then we had Faola putting a whooping on Eddie. Faola had by far the highest score in the league this year. He had 166 points. Eddie had 101.5. Andrew Luck finally showed up for Eddie's team. Picked a good week to do it when Eddie had no chance pretty much unless he put up 200 points. Not a bad week out of Eddie. But, 166 points, what are you going to do? Faola had 29 points out of Roethlisberger, 29.5 out of Ezekiel Elliott, 27 from Martellus Bennett, and 23 from Larry Fitzgerald. All pretty big games. Everybody else just had good weeks. 16 points for LaShawn McCoy. Had 13.5 out of DeAndre Hopkins. So, very good week for Kyle. Highest score in the league so far this year. Congrats, Kyle. Somebody's going to fucking beat it next week, I bet, because that seems to be the way this is going. So, Eddie's now 2-3. Kyle's 3-2. Next, we had the Battle of the Bleakers. It was Barnsey, who was undefeated, going up against Espo. Espo beat him 117.5 to 79.5. Espo had a big week out of Tom Brady. The God's finally back. Feels good. Devontae Freeman actually had a pretty good day against the Broncos, which I was surprised by. He put up 18.5 points. And Adam Vinatieri fucking went off for Espo. 23 points out of your kicker. That sucks, Barnesy. I'm kind of sorry, but not really. Happy you're not undefeated anymore. That was getting fucking annoying. And there was really nothing Barnesy could have done to win this. He had Ryan Matthews on his bench for 13.5 points, but that would have done nothing. So Barnesy's now 4-1. Espo's 3-2. I think that's the first matchup we've had this week where both teams have a winning record. So that's interesting. Then we had Kyle Cabral beating up on Dwyer's sorry excuse for a fantasy football team. Dwyer, for some reason, rolled with Matt Ryan against Denver's defense. He doesn't have any other quarterback on his team. I don't know why he didn't go pick one up. I feel like that's a matchup you should try to avoid. Then he had Howard from the Bears, scored 22.5 points. So that was a quarter of his points just from that one player. Antonio Brown played well. Antonio Brown always plays well, but he had Matt Jones sucked, got him 4 points. Will Fuller was fucking terrible, got him half of a point. And Cincy's defense, -1 point. Not very good against a rookie quarterback in Dallas. Kyle had a pretty big week with 126.5 points. He had Philip Rivers played pretty well for him, 26 points. Amari Cooper, big game, 24 points. Greg Olsen with a big game too, 22.5. And Kyle actually had some points left on his bench too. Dwyer didn't. Like 84 points is what Dwyer was getting. Not a good week. But Andy Dalton had 21 points. Philip Rivers still did better, so that worked out for Kyle. And Tevin Coleman had 24 points on Kyle's bench, so that was pretty good. And finally, the marquee matchup this week, me versus Mayette, who's terrified of clowns like a big baby. I had 105.5 points. Mayette scored 84 points. I really no huge performances for me this week. I mean, Brandon Marshall had a good game, 21 points. Everybody else just did their part. Bunch of mediocre scores. Arizona's defense stepped up, got me 17 points. I didn't pay attention to the weather and played a kicker who was kicking in like 30-mile-per-hour winds and shitty conditions. So I only got 2 points out of that. Luckily, that didn't come back to bite me. I was not happy when I saw like the weather update in the middle of the game saying how fucking shitty it was out in Baltimore. So that's on me. From now on, I'm going to scout the weather. Make sure I'm on my A game. No more slacking like that. He had Jameis Winston, not very good up against Carolina's defense. Not a huge shock there. He had 14 points. Lamar Miller sucked against Minnesota's defense. Once again, not a huge surprise. T.Y. Hilton had a big game for him. I thought that motherfucker was going to somehow find a way to beat me. Glad that didn't come back to bite me in the ass. Michael Crabtree continues to be like a very serviceable wide receiver, which is, if you told me that 5 years ago that he was still going to be playing at this level, I'd be shocked. But everybody else for Brian kind of sucked. Besides Theo Riddick, who was on his bench with 22 points. Once again, wouldn't have really made that much of a difference. Wouldn't have made any difference. So, I'm finally won. I'm now a tremendous 1-4. Brian's 2-3. And I think I forgot to give the update for the last game. Dwyer's 1-4. Cabral's 4-1. So, standings are getting kind of close. We got a bunch of 3-2, 2-3 teams. Barnesy and Kyle have the best records at 4-1. Then Dwyer and I suck at 1-4. But I don't really suck. I have the most points scored all year in our division, the East Division. So, next week, I'm facing Ben. And pretty much what I'm saying is don't let me get to 2-4. Because if I get to 2-4, I'll go 3-4. Then I go 4-4, and it's a whole new season after that. So, I'm coming back with a vengeance. Whole new lease on life. Very optimistic. Can't wait to go out there and kick Ben's ass next week. It's an honor to get to beat Mayette and Ben back-to-back weeks. Excited for that. No other matchups next week. We got Barnesy versus Eddie, Espo versus Dwyer, so that's a win for Espo. Mayette versus Cabral, and Davis versus Kyle Fiola. So, good luck to you guys, and Brian, stay away from scary movies since you're so terrified of clowns, you big baby.